This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, proud sponsors of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium, July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida. Looking forward to seeing literally thousands of you there. What we're doing today is the pre-conference interviews, where we introduce the attendees to the exhibitors. Bear in mind that every exhibitor at this conference has been vetted. Every exhibitor in this conference is owned in accounts which are both owned and or managed by me. While that's no guarantee that their shares go up, it is a guarantee that unlike other investment conferences, every single exhibitor at this conference is vetted. Today, I have the good fortune of interviewing a new friend, Zach Flood, a man who I've known for about a decade and have come to both admire and like. Zach is founder and CEO of Kenorland Minerals. So, first of all, Zach, thank you for submitting yourself to this interview process, and thank you too for your ongoing sponsorship of the classrooms and the conference. We're delighted to have you with us.
Yeah, and thank you, Rick. I always appreciate our conversations and support.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that the information that you get here and at the conference is meant to be used in conjunctions with the lessons that you learned in the Rule classroom. And in this case, of course, the tapes from the Prospect Generator Boot Camp, which we just got done. Kenorland is, in fact, a prospect generator, active throughout the northern part of North America, both Alaska and Canada. Zach, perhaps you could tell us something about what you were trying to do when you set up the company, and how it is that you've succeeded in that mission, because you have succeeded fairly quickly from my point of view, although maybe not as fast as a young man like you would prefer.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. In 2016, we started Kenorland Minerals, myself and three other geologists. I think the reason why we started the company is we saw a lack of grassroots exploration happening in the space, and this could, be a reason why you see a lack of new discoveries happening or a decline in the rate of discoveries. Is there's just not a lot of groups that are actually out there doing real large scale greenfields exploration. So this is why we put the company together in 2016. And in order to achieve our goal, we went down the path of project generation, which is a bit of a unique model in the space, whereby we're trying to attract third parties to spend the high risk capital on exploration, as opposed to issuing shares in the company and spending our own treasury on it, because it's a very high risk game. You need to take a lot of shots, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of money to achieve that. So we've executed quite well on that model. Today, we're a really well-established company in the space. We have a couple of discoveries under our belt. One which has turned into a very serious project that's moving forward with Sumitomo metal mining. So yeah, that's kind of the history and the reason why we started the business.
We're going to get deeper into the Sumitomo project in a minute, but let's zoom out for a second. I would argue, in retrospect, that your timing turned out to be excellent in the sense that you were able to stake very large tracts of land in known prospective mineral belts because you did it at a time when nobody was interested. Tell me something about the nature of those staking programs, what the targets were, and tell me whether you think I'm right that those land packages couldn't be duplicated in the current environment.
No, it's completely correct. In 2016, there was a lot of open ground covering greenstone belts in places like Ontario, Quebec, very well-established jurisdictions with a long history of mining. And this was the opportunity that we saw again. There was not a lot of companies out there doing greenfields exploration. And generally, the areas that are open tend to be the areas that are underexplored. If parts of a belt are well explored, people have generally found something there, and that ground's not available for staking. So naturally, our strategy focused on areas of underexplored terrain within proven geology and districts, and that's allowed us to consolidate a huge amount of ground. We have about 1.8 million hectares of mineral tenure, either interest through royalties or direct interest in the mineral tenure itself. And of course, it's not just one. It's not just staking the ground that's necessary. You actually need to have a strategy to explore it properly. So that's kind of the second half of the story is how we're actually able to explore these terrains.
So let's talk now about what appears to be a successful case. Fairly early on, you had an idea in Quebec, you staked it, you did a little bit of regional exploration, and then you brought in a very large but relatively unknown joint venture partner, Sumitomo. Tell us something about what led you to this area, what you did in terms of gathering data to attract the partner, and describe the spectacular success to date that Sumitomo and you have enjoyed, and what your resulting interest is.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Exactly as I've explained the strategy, this is what we carried out in the Frotted Evans Belt in northern Quebec. We saw a large area of greenstone belt that was underexplored and open for staking. So we went in, acquired about 56,000 hectares of ground, which is about 560 square kilometers. And we approached Sumitomo with nothing more than a strategy to explore it. So we gave them a 3-year timeline and the budget to take it from that regional scale down to a drill target and drill testing a hypothetical target. And sure enough, they bought into that strategy. So we signed an earn-in agreement with them in 2018. And we followed the strategy to a T. It took us exactly 3 years and the amount of money that we had proposed. And by the end of that first drill program, we recognized that we had made a significant discovery. And now that discovery has around 220 drill holes in it and over 100,000 meters of drilling.
And any sense so far about the arm waving resource? What sort of size are we talking about?
It's back of the envelope. We're talking millions of ounces of gold. So, I would say somewhere in the range between 2 and 5. That's a very broad number. Obviously, these orogenic gold systems can grow quite dramatically. And there's many good examples of these systems continuing kilometers at depth. But we're in the millions of ounces of type of a range, and I think really what sets the deposit apart is the grade. We're looking at something that will be north or in between probably 5 and 10 grams per ton. So high grade narrow vein system.
Often prospect generators end up with a carried working interest, which they have the responsibility of funding to production. In your case, I think you wisely decided not to involve yourself in undefined capital expenditures, but rather settled for a royalty. Tell us something about the royalty and what that royalty might be worth in the future market.
Definitely, yeah. So we did have a 20% participating interest in a joint venture there, and as you mentioned, that comes with its own challenges of financing even a minority interest along to development and ultimate production. So we decided to exchange our 20% interest for a large royalty interest. So that was converted to a 4% net smelter return royalty. There's a buy down, $13 million can buy down 0.75%, leaving 3.25% net smelter return royalty, which is uncapped. What does that mean in terms of potential value? If you take 3.25% of say a 3 million ounce deposit at $2,000 gold, you're looking at over US $200 million worth of cash flow out of there. And Kenorland does not have to put up a dime going forward, which is the beauty of royalties. And of course, there's a large amount of competition in the royalty space to acquire assets like this. So Kenorland's in a very favorable position moving forward.
Let's talk briefly about some of your other exploration assets, in particular, one that you and I discussed last week that you're particularly attracted to, with hopes, of course, of pulling a second rabbit out of the same hat.
Yeah, we've since that discovery of Renault, we've basically just multiplied and scaled up the amount of ground that we're exploring in both Quebec, Ontario, and into Manitoba and other jurisdictions. It's the same strategy everywhere. We look for large areas of underexplored geology, and we carry out large-scale systematic geochem surveys. On a few of our properties, we now are looking at large golden till anomalies, glacial till anomalies, which is again how we found Renault. One in particular in the Red Lake district, South Uchi, has a very large golden till anomaly in an area that has had no historical exploration. And this is exactly what we look for. This is why we're doing the work we're doing, is to find opportunities like this. So we're quite excited about it. We have enough experience to recognize that there is potential here for a new discovery, and we'll be looking to attract partners going forward to spend that high-risk capital on the ground.
And in context, the Red Lake District is seeing between 40 and 50 million ounces of historic production. It's an extremely well-known district. I want to talk something about the potential value of Kenorland relative to the market cap. The market capitalization, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's fairly paltry. You have rather large cash assets, you have this royalty, and you have these other exploration assets. Could you tell me something about the sum of the parts and their potential value relative to the price of the whole?
Of course, yeah. Kenorland's market cap today is about 45 million Canadian. We have around 20 million dollars Canadian in cash, so our enterprise value is sitting somewhere between 20 and 25 million dollars Canadian. As I just described, the royalty itself could be worth multiples of what our current enterprise value is, and this doesn't take into account the blue sky and the rest of the portfolio and targets that will be tested within the next year, 2 years, 3 years out. There's always a lot of exploration happening and a lot of potential to move the needle on that side. But ultimately, I think the most obvious value driver here will be the royalty on a large, high-grade gold deposit that Sumitomo is advancing.
For context, ladies and gentlemen, I visited with somebody who shall remain nameless, who suggested that the market capitalization of West Uchi right now, given all the activity in the Red Lake district, might be 20 million Canadian dollars, which would suggest, I'm not saying it's true necessarily, but if you add the cash and you add that prospective valuation, you get the royalty and the rest of the company for free. That's a very, very interesting value proposition, if true. Zach, there are going to be literally thousands of people coming in contact with this video, many of whom are going to want to know more about prospect generation and more about Kenorland. If they want to do a deep dive in Kenorland, who in particular do they talk to, and how do they reach that person?
I would encourage them to reach out to myself directly. My email is zach@kenorlandminerals.com, ZACH. So it's really easy to get a hold of me, and I'm always open to educating people on Kenorland and what we do and how we do it.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the perfect answer. The buck stops at the top. If the CEO wants to talk to you, it means that he or she is passionate about their company, passionate about their shareholders, and cares, frankly, about their cost of capital. I would urge you to take him up on this invitation, and I would urge you to get in touch with Kenorland, if possible, before the conference. The most efficient way that you can use the 50 hours spread over the 4 days at the conference is to know exactly what you want to learn, who you want to learn it from, and already to have established a calendar, at least in your mind. Zach, as a shareholder, thank you for your efforts on behalf of shareholders. Thank you for your participation in the Prospect Generator Bootcamp. And thank you in particular for your participation in the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Thank you very much, Rick. I look forward to it.